Here is a classic example of 4-year-old Adenium. Every year it gets pruned and trimmed, grows bigger leaves, more flowers, and the thing to note here is the size of the flowers. This video is less about the process and more about the results. So, a unique video in so many ways. I'm sure you've been anticipating some updates on Adeniums after they have been through such processes, and there are not many videos on the platform. Well, I'm about to change that, and you'll witness some Adeniums that have been pruned or trimmed or even repotted for years now, and it would be an awesome experience for you to look at all of them up close. Right off the bat, let's understand the difference between pruning and trimming first, and then we see how an adenium reacts to a good prune or trim once in a while. Well, the differences are subtle though. Pruning is used to remove unnecessary branches. Trimming, on the other hand, promotes healthy growth. Both services are performed at separate times of the year using vastly different pieces of equipment to provide a better aesthetic and healthier landscape. So now you know, more often than not, an adenium would be a suitable plant candidate for both pruning and trimming. And you don't have to think too much before you take any of these processes on, because an adenium would take any of these processes kindly and would give you great results. More branches, more flowers, and more girth. And that's what we want for our adenium, right? Well, that's agreed. Now let's show you the results, how adeniums react or perform after a prune or trim. Stay with me and please make sure you're subscribed. Let's go. If an adenium is 3 or more years old, then trimming and pruning can be done at any time. And if it's younger, please don't undertake any of these processes. Understand that you might be doing more harm than good. Also, have a good 6 to 8 months gap between a trim and a prune. For any adenium, the first step is to give it 2-3 years to go about its business uninterrupted. No pruning, no trimming, and no repotting. That way, the plant has enough time to grow efficiently until it makes it to adulthood. And now the plant will be ripe enough to take on any process in a very constructive way. The idea is to increase the number of branches. In turn, the adenium will have more leaves, more food, more girth, and then more flowers, and even more chances of survival. And once you know you have the right height for your adeniums, go ahead and maintain that height and trim them once every year to keep that height. This will help the plants against winds and drooping. Now this adenium is 3 years old but looks quite young. So this is what happens if you avoid pruning and trimming. I've had a lot of questions about, is it absolute necessary? Well, not necessary, but if you want your plant to look like this, by all means, go ahead and not do any pruning or trimming. As opposed to this plant right here, have been through some trimming and pruning over the years, growing well, and have added even 200% girth from last year. Mind you, these two plants were grown around the same time. If you grow more heads on an adenium, there would be that many bud clusters, and that's what you want, right? So don't wait anymore. Once the plant is 3 years old, get to pruning and trimming and get the maximum out of the said plant. Here is a classic example of 4-year-old Adenium. Every year it gets pruned and trimmed, grows bigger leaves, more flowers, and the thing to note here is the size of the flowers. And the stem keeps growing huge, and the caudex is just as awesome. Check out those trimmed marks all around. Now you might be thinking, where should you make those cuts? Well, if the plant is 3 feet tall, make those cuts just 1 foot from the top. If it's 2 feet tall, for example, then half a foot from the top, not more. Sometimes you'll see growth right at the base. Please don't remove those branches. That's just extra food for the plant and will be a big help when the plant has no leaves after the trim or prune. So keep them, and unless they are being sullied in mud or going bad because of close contact with the soil, don't remove them. Another good thing about adeniums is they take pruning and trimming really well. You see all these cuts and marks, they don't get infected easily. So if you do it somewhat wrong, don't worry. The plant has the capability to take care of it all without any extra efforts. So all in all, they're quite hardy, and if I can go on to say that they love it, I won't be wrong. Still, you can use cinnamon powder or wax to close the wounds or leave them be. One suggestion though, please avoid undertaking these processes during rains. When you have had a adenium for 3 years, by then you know its flowering cycle. Hence, make sure you prune or trim it 4 to 6 months before that. So by the time the flowering season comes, your adenium is all set to flower at its full capacity. Of course, whatever I have discussed today covers all varieties of adenium. You can grow them vertically and, as you see here, horizontally as well. Here the branches are all spread out closer to the ground and they are flowering heavily. Hereby, one plant is covering a good circular area of 1.5 meters in diameter. Thank you once again for being such a patient audience. Appreciate it. If you have any questions, please don't hold them back. Just share so that everyone can benefit, and that includes me also. I wish you a great 2022. May all your wishes be answered and you have a healthy start to the new year. I'll be back soon with another interesting video. Please stay tuned and keep watching the videos that interest you. Like, share, and subscribe. Cheers. Goodbye.